This is the Inspiration Science Podcast, your guiding podcast on evolving your own science and life to holistically strive. We believe there is no general way of living and healing, but your universal way. You succeed the highest when you do you. On this podcast, we'll dive into deep conversations on mental health and aligning purpose to business for enlightening harmony in life. I'm your host, Ozzin. Welcome everyone to my first podcast of the Inspiration Science. I'm so excited to have my first episode, and the topic about this episode will be about life purpose. So when it comes to mental health and purpose, there are so many different topics, so we'll dive into that as we go. But I think as the kickstart of the first podcast, I think the life purpose is such a fundamental thing in business and in life, and it adds so much to the health part as well. So I will dive deep into this episode about 8 things that I did that I could find my life purpose, and it may shed light on your life as well, so you can also embody your life purpose and find it if you didn't find it yet or live by that. So a little bit about my backstory, for if you don't know me yet. I was born in South Korea, and by the age of 6, I moved for a short time to Australia in Sydney with my mom. And shortly after that, I moved to Switzerland, and that's where I grew up. I went there to school. I studied hospitality since I was 15 years old for 3 years. Did 1 year economic laws, and while I studied all of these things, I still always had this urge in me to become an artist, but I've kind of repressed this away because I thought this is not the way I would make a living off, and my whole purpose around that. And I just keep going. I had this I studied, as I said, the hospitality, work in hotels. I had a lot of valuable experiences there, and also studied later on a bachelor's degree in design management. And now it sounds just like some typical thing, study after study, but there was a lot in between where I dropped out 2 times from university, where I traveled, met artists around the world. So this is like a podcast for a whole, a new podcast I will dive into another time. But I have to say, it is a part of how I discovered my life purpose. So again, when I was a child, I used to write stories, paint drawings, and tinker around on creative projects. I used to sit in my room for hours by myself, writing away about space, life, about my friends and family. I used to draw for hours in my room on a messy floor to let my creativity flow. And guys, when I'm creative, I'm a very exploding, so that's why I always tell I'm a very organized yet a very, very messy person. I think creative people know that. And and the whole creativity, I let it flow, not because I want to impress my parents or teachers, and not because I got paid for it, but for the share of joy that I felt. And then for some reason I stopped, and I don't remember why. I realized over the past years why it all happens, and the older we get, the more we are integrated in society, and we tend to feel more pressured from society how things should be. So we were told to give up on the things that don't bring us any income, and that we need to get a job with a good reputation or any good salary. That's why, typical Asian families, they say usually become a doctor, become a lawyer, anything that has a good reputation in society. And this is exactly what makes people insecure and makes them feel stuck when it comes to picking a career. So that 8-year-old girl, she didn't care about the Google traffic or social media things or going viral or about books and stuff. She just wants to play. And that's where literally the passion begins, in playfulness and with a sense of play. And this is the whole topic. What is even about purpose, and what's purpose? What does it mean for, all the people out there? And it seems like a simple question, but it's yet a very difficult question to answer. And there's no right or wrong. So your life purpose is absolutely what you decide and allow yourself. Your purpose is what you feel, say, and act on it. And it's interesting because as I asked this question to many people I've met in my life, some people would have a very clear answer on that, while others would say, oh, I never really ask myself these questions in the back end. So it's, you kind of make them speechless. So, I would love to challenge you. What is your life purpose as you listen to this podcast right now? If you know your life purpose, then awesome for you. I'm really happy, and I hope that you embody that and live by that daily. If you do not know your life purpose, then that's no problem. That's what the podcast is for. So I want to shed light on that and also challenge you to take a paper and, to write down the things as, the things that come up as you listen to me right now. So this podcast, I'm not going to tell you on how you really find a purpose, because again, I'm just sharing today 8 tips, 8 perspectives that help me personally. I know people, they didn't had my 8 tips, they just live by that either and they sleep on it, and other people, they just do one specific thing and they found it. So again, there's no really formula onto that. So the first thing at least that helped me was, number 1, consider injustices that bothered me. So injustice is a quality relating to unfairness or undeserved outcomes. When you look at the world, did you ever had moments when you thought, oh, this is so unfair, or this really needs to be changed? When you watch TV, radio, or you listen to, just conversations from people. So injustice, it occurs everywhere. And I just found when I was a teenager, observing my surrounding, my family and things, it started already with the basic human rights. As I was traveling one time with my family, I saw people on the streets living in poverty, even clean water, which is for many of us just a normal human right that we just have it. But for many other countries, it's not, it's not normal, because they have even struggled to just survive or have clean water. And then when I used to work in hotels and much more, I realized that women, for example, are not same valued like men. So it started to change a lot, of course, in positive sense as well, but there are still a lot of areas where women are not same appreciated like men. And again, also, no, not everyone has the same access to the education. And these were like the questions that just made me think, like, why is it the way it is? And why do people have racism? Why do we judge? So I've been always a person who just questions things so much deeper. And there were many things I just find unfair. And I always want to find a harmony within on how this could be changed. So again, it's difficult to satisfy everyone, but this can be a trigger that reactivates another part in our brain and hard to take action on it, because behind injustice there is another energy that drives you along with the skills you will develop to change the things that you observe that just doesn't seem fair right now. So when something catches your attention and you start to care about something, this is when change starts. One person needs to care more than the other million people to initiate a change. And this is the moment when I started to care why people live in poverty, care why don't people have access to that. And it brought me a bit closer to my life purpose. Then the second thing was, listen what other people appreciate about you. So your speech really inspired me. Have you ever got compliments from people who say, oh, you're so creative, oh, you're so empowering the way you speak, or you're so good in drawing or convincing people? Whatever it is, challenge yourself on what type of compliments you got so far in life, what type of praise, where do people appreciate and respect you the most? So it's often the little things day in, day out, and I just realized, and I reflected, what are the praise that I got in my life? And here are a few. Number 1, people said, oh, Ozzin, you're really great with the creative skills. You have a lot of ideas, out of the box thinking. You're good in drawing, tinkering around, creating new games. You're funny. You have an enlightening character. Then number 2, as well, you're strong in communication and speaking skills. You're strong in understanding people and empowering them, motivating them to take a big change in life. So these were just like 2 examples that I've heard kind of the most throughout my life. But I've kind of just, I just took it with gratitude, but I never really thought of I'm going to do something big with that in terms of my career. So just if you don't know that, or if you haven't really thought of, just write down on a paper all the compliments that you ever received from your family, friends, strangers, your coworkers, whatever it is, because they might see things that you do not realize. And so it's always good to ask people around us what they see sometimes. So that helped me definitely to, tap into that. Then number three is explore your interests practically. Because theoretically and in our mind, it's always very different. And what helped me to, to find my purpose was to explore all my interests practically. And I can tell you something that you need to keep in. You do not have to figure out your whole life and pressure yourself that you do not know the next steps. Because that's a pressure that I live by really long, that I kind of need to figure out my whole plan, what's the next 5-10 years look like. And I'm a person, I think pretty much, forward, like with forward thinking for the upcoming years. I just love that with the vision, but it can also cause a certain pressure. So again, when it comes to finding out what you truly want to live by passion, just, explore. Don't put pressure on that. Again, embrace that inner child and list all the things that you just love on a piece of paper, then commit to one thing at a time with a certain time frame to experience it practically. Only then you know if you truly love it or not. And the thing is, if you just don't do it and you just think, oh, this might be interesting, or maybe this is not really my thing. The thing is, you do not know until you do it practically. So really allow yourself to explore. And this is exactly what I did when I was 18. I dropped out from school. I want to become this artist. I told my mom, I want to go to New York. I want to go to America. I really, I don't even know why I'm sitting in a school when I know I want to become an artist. So literally, it was a crazy thing. I dropped out. I had a friend in New York, and he said, and I told him as I was chatting to him, one day I want to come to New York and, be an artist and study that. And he said, why not just come this week? And I was like, I can't. I'm in school. And he's like, yeah, but why are you going to school when you tell me your dream is to become an artist? You already can draw and do creative things. And that made me, think a lot. And it was crazy since I had this long time in my mind. I just then decided to pull the trigger, and I literally just dropped out and submitted this letter to my school director, and I flew the next day to New York. And again, I had a whole year of just exploring myself. I traveled, I wrote on my new book and all the different things. And I realized over 1 year one thing. I knew that I loved arts, but something was missing. And drawing for 8 hours on a row was not the same than just drawing for 1 hour. And I needed the part of business, in serving the society with something different that was needed beyond just painting some things, on a paper, which I still enjoy. So that's when I actually got into all the other things that I'm doing today as I speak on this podcast. So again, just let yourself explore, because you do not know until you experience that. Number 4, think about what's easy for you, what comes easily. Because the way school systems are, for example, designed is that we need to fit into a certain system, and we need to have a good grades in all the different subjects to pass. And there is a certain expectations, awaited for that. But no one really, I feel like this is kind of the things that I see as a big challenge, is that the talent, the superpower that people naturally have is not as enough supported to develop that but people are boxed into a certain framework that does not serve them. So think about it, what just comes very easy. Sometimes a distraction that you have, it could mean that it's associated with your life purpose, because sometimes we often fall into those things that we just love and enjoy. So in my free time, I would just constantly tinker around and brainstorm ideas. I love to share my thoughts, do content and posts, and I would even do that if I was super busy. I would even do that as some sort of distraction. And then I realized if that comes so natural, it just means I have a certain passion for that. So think about what's easy. We're all born with different talents and a purpose that we need to unlock. It takes sometimes effort and an open mind towards yourself. Even the most gifted musicians or the best public speakers in the world, they do need a lot of practice. And often those people maybe didn't, had this realizations in the beginning. And even people who are the greatest salespeople in the world, they were probably the ones who sucked the most in the beginning, and then they realize they have a great gift and you evolve it. So again, just for me, maths was never my thing. I was really, really bad in maths. I used to cry after certain exams I had, and I really, people have the stereotype Asians are so good in maths, which is totally not true. But again, it totally depends. And I was not forcing myself. I have to do something that I'm not good at. So again, look at the activities that keeps you up all night, but also look at the cognitive principles behind those activities that really, sparks the light in you, because they can be easily applied anywhere else. Then number 5, start conversations with new people. I think this is a big thing that helped me. The more conversations I had in my life, the more I had, different perspectives, and I would discover things that I've never heard before, and that changed my life, not just in terms of the perspectives, but I had a lot of wisdom gained through that, because you learn, like I try to learn from every person that I meet, no matter what their background is, what they do. But because of that, through the conversations, it makes one think as well, the different reflective questions. We can mastermind and think bigger. So when I was, for example, very interesting back then in trading and investments, what I was to search for people who were experts on, LinkedIn, social media platforms. I always, approach these people who already have what I want, or who already have the knowledge that I seek for, and I just network. I just start a good relationship with them to gain an insights on what that looks like, and then, just dive deeper into that. And the thing is, we often also tend to connect with those people who have common interests, but sometimes it's interesting to do the opposite, to connect with people who have a whole different type of interests, who are not in the same industry, because that's the ultimate thing that maybe, where you can discover something new that may something be that you love. So again, just have conversations with people and break the ice for that. Number 6, think about the times you've experienced the greatest joy in your life. And think about the moments where you just simply smile. And it's such a simple thing, but I want you to think about, when do you smile the most? Is there any specific activity that you do on a daily basis and it just makes your day a little bit better and you just smile? It's a very simple way of finding out what your life purpose is. And the most surprising thing is that some people already live by the life purpose, but they just don't realize it. And that was also something that I experienced. I, for example, always enjoyed empowering people. And, I love talking. That's why you hear me on this podcast talking. I love speaking a lot. And I love to be creative and all of these things. But I never realized that was some sort of life purpose to, transform people's life. And now, as I speak, I'm a business mentor, personal coach for people, helping people to build their own businesses, scaling to 6 figures, and, just embrace their whole purpose. And I've already did that, years ago when I was a teenager, but I didn't consider that as a job. So again, look into the things that you already do now. So I remember also the times when, when I could lift up people with my speech, and through the creativity, help other people to, evolve their ideas and things. And the more I repeated that, and, and people were inspired and stuff, I just realized that it just gave me the greatest joy just doing that. And I would even do that if I would not get paid for it. So if I know that this is something I just naturally enjoy, then it's something that I just realized for myself it's something I should be doing. So I hope that helps as well. Number 6 in terms of thinking about the simple things. Then number 7 was take time for yourself and take inventory of your biggest superpowers. Many people, they take inventory of other people's gifts. They start to compare themselves and ask, oh, why is Sally so good in drawing? Why is Tom so good in singing? Damn, he's so good. And why is she so crushing it with her business? But the question is, like, did you take inventory in your own life? Because most of the time, when we have our own gifts and stuff, we sometimes store it in our basement and we would not show it to the world. Who we are, what we do, what things we are good at, and we just don't show it. But if you just take time to ask yourself different questions and dig a little bit deeper, because when we change the questions we ask to ourselves, our life can change. The way we see ourselves is very important. The way we talk to ourselves is so important. But all of that, it takes time. Time to study yourself. And the better you know yourself, the better you will understand other people in terms of your awareness. So reflection helped me a lot. I reflected on the things that I did well, that I felt I had great accomplishment, and I would ask myself, why did it go well? And if something really sucked at it, I reflect, why did it suck and how can I do it next time better? And I take a lot of time for myself. As much as I love being around people and perceived as a rather extroverted person, which was, by the way, not always the case, because I was a quite introverted person, being quite shy. But, I just love my alone time, being away from people, reflect, journal, listen to my music, dive into my world. And then when there's social time, I go ahead and socialize, like hardcore social life. But having those both things allowed me to, to actually come to the conclusion on what my life purpose actually was. And I wrote it down. So I wrote down on a piece of paper what my life purpose was. And guys, this is a really funny thing. I wrote it down like literally 3 years ago when I created a vision board in Switzerland as a student. And when I later dived into the whole business part and people would ask me what's my life purpose, sometimes I was still not very clear on how to answer that. But then one of my mentors said, often life purpose is what you already live by, and it's closer than you think. And then I just look up to my wall and I saw my vision board of, all the manifestations that I've did visually. And apart from all the pictures, I had one post-it note that was written with one sentence, and it says, I want to heal people, companies, and the world through connections and unification. Like, that was one sentence I wrote down, but I never really looked at this post-it too much. And now, since, after 3-4 years, looking at what I'm doing right now, coaching, mentoring, public speaking, everything that, about transforming people's life, I do realize that the core of my daily purpose is actually in helping people to healing businesses. And it starts a lot with spirituality and deepness that, that starts from the inner transformation. And again, it was closer than I thought. It was literally on a piece of paper. I was looking at this paper for 3 years, and yet I would not realize my freaking purpose. So sometimes it's just closer than we think. Then the next thing, apart from taking time for oneself, and this is the last one for today I'm going to share, is follow your inner GPS guidance and trust your gut and intuition. So I'm a very intuitive person, and I believe a lot in spirituality, and often we do know the answer, but there are a lot of factors in life, a lot of inputs and environments that challenges us to take maybe a different decision, although we deep down just know what is maybe right for us or not. So your guidance works similarly like to a GPS system. When you get into a car and you're heading to a specific destination, like, what is the first thing you put into your GPS? You probably put in the current location. And once it's determined where you are, A, it gives you direction to where you are heading, which is B. The engine is your passion and heart. Be clear about where you want to go, because again, clarity is power. Align your goals with your life purpose and act as if you already are there. And this one is so big because we first need to own where we are right now. We need to accept the reality we're living right now. And when we have a dream, to just sit down, close our eyes, breathe through what just speaks without any limitations. And then from there, just from there you just allow yourself to hear your intuition. And often the silence speaks louder than the words. So I would just be in the nature or going for a walk, and I allow myself to trust my intuition. And to be very practical with you guys, because it's a lot of speaking, but I want to give you a practical input that you can apply right now. Take a piece of paper and put on some great music, that some inspirational music in the background. And I want you to close your eyes just for a second and just fast forward, think where you see yourself in 1 year. It's not in 3 years or 5 years, it's in 1 year. And imagine yourself on how you feel, what you wear, where you're at, and with what people you're surrounded with. What type of picture does come up for you as I speak? And just write down the things that you feel and the person that you want to become that year. And also, there is no guideline in terms of goals and things. I just want you to take a time of around 3 minutes and write down everything that just comes up right now. Whether it's relationship, health-wise, business, whatever it is, just write down everything that you want in this 1 year, and let that just sink in. So you can pause this podcast as you do this exercise. I'm just gonna continue speaking on that part. After you did this exercise, think of where you're at right now, and then when you know where you're at right now, you will probably feel a gap between where you're at and where you want to go to. And now, the most people, they would feel kind of frustrated because it seems like it's very far away from where they want to be at compared to where they are right now. But there's one thing, and that's been a huge game changer, is to think of as if you already received it. So the way I would write my notes and my letter was, I am grateful that I already achieved it. I am so grateful that I live in this apartment in New York, and I'm so grateful that I could speak on stage in front of 400 people. So write the letter in that way with this imagination, and you will see that a lot of things as you do this exercise will come up naturally. And it can help you to have new realizations as well. So again, trust your intuition as well in life. Don't fool yourself with the things that your mind thinks is just right to do, because in the long term, your heart will always scream out of the truth, and your life purpose is already within you. So these were the 8 perspectives in terms of the whole life purpose that helped me to embody that on a daily basis. And as a last thing that I just want to remind of is, do what scares you the most. And by doing that is that, things that makes you happy on the long term, and it might be very scary to tap into outside of your comfort zone. But when you listen to yourself and that's the thing, even though it's scary, hug your tears, well, tears as well. Hug your fears tightly as your best friends. If you have tears, because it's going to be also sometimes struggles that comes along with that, hug them as well, because they are blessed tears. It's going to serve you a lot also on the long term. And again, you do not have to figure out your whole life. Many people have this pressure. Take action on the small things to create your own path step by step, and it will evolve as you go. Don't let other people's opinions be the reasons why you don't act on your things. Don't stop yourself from doing things because it might be embarrassing, because we care too much about what people think. Instead, embrace this embarrassment. And feeling foolish is just part of the path to achieve something meaningful. Because the more a major life decision scares you, the chances are more that you need to be doing that. So explore yourself and never give up on yourself, because the purpose lies already in you. And also, as I say, the whole philosophical part in that is that everyone sees life purpose different. Some people don't really feel like they just want to be happy. But again, what even is happiness? So whatever that means for you, just do something that sparks a light in your soul and heart. And I hope that this episode could help you to have a little bit more different perspectives when it comes to embodying your purpose. So that was it for today. Thank you so much for listening. That was the first episode. Let me know what you want to hear next time as well, how you find it. And yeah, I guess see you next time. Okay, beautiful souls, thank you so much for taking time out of your day life to untangle wisdom and abundance on all levels. If you feel connection to this audio experience, share it with your friends. Follow us on Instagram, Your Universal Way, and my personal Instagram, Ozzin, OCCINJUN. And always remember, there is no right or wrong way, just your universal way. See you next time.